Look at the inside of your arm right now. Go ahead, look. Now think about the 80-year-old woman you know whose skin looks almost impossibly smooth. No deep creases, no sagging, no spots. And you're wondering, what is she doing differently? Because nobody talks about this. Your doctor won't bring it up at your annual checkup. The anti-aging industry wants you spending hundreds of dollars on creams and serums. But what if the real answer was sitting in your kitchen this entire time? What if there is a specific science-backed way to use something as simple as salt that actually protects the collagen in your skin, supports your circulation, and keeps the tissue in your arms looking decades younger than your actual age? Stay with me, because in the next 20 minutes I am going to pull back the curtain on something that mainstream medicine has quietly overlooked. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why certain seniors age so gracefully while others don't, and what you can start doing about it today. Let's begin with something that most people have completely backwards. For decades we have been told that salt is the enemy. High blood pressure, heart disease, kidney damage. The message has been consistent and loud: cut your salt, live longer. And while that advice has its place for specific medical conditions, it has created a massive blind spot when it comes to skin health and aging, particularly for people over the age of 60. Here's what the research is now beginning to confirm. The skin is not just a passive barrier. It is a living organ that actively stores sodium. Scientists at the German Research Center for Environmental Health discovered that the skin acts as a sodium reservoir, a buffer tank for the body's salt regulation. And when that reservoir is healthy and functioning properly, the skin maintains its elasticity, its moisture balance, and its structural integrity in ways that slow down the visible aging process significantly. This is not alternative medicine. This is published, peer-reviewed science that simply hasn't made it into the average doctor's conversation with their patients. Now, what does this mean in practical terms? When seniors have chronically low sodium levels, which is actually far more common in older adults than most people realize, a condition called hyponatremia begins to develop silently. You might feel slightly off, little fatigued, perhaps a bit confused. But underneath the surface, something else is happening in the skin. The cells in the dermis, the deep layer of your skin, where collagen and elastin live, begin to lose their ability to hold water. And when skin cells can't hold water, they shrivel. They collapse inward. The connective tissue that keeps your skin plump and firm begins to break down faster than the body can repair it. The arms, particularly the backs of them, are among the first places where this internal cellular dehydration shows up visibly, because the skin there is thinner and has less subcutaneous fat to compensate. So the seniors you see with surprisingly smooth, youthful arms, many of them have, whether intentionally or instinctively, maintained a salt balance that supports their skin's hydration at the cellular level. But here is where it gets even more interesting, and where the story goes beyond just table salt. Not all sodium is created equal. This is the distinction that almost no one talks about. Regular processed table salt, the white refined stuff in the little cardboard cylinder, has been stripped of virtually every mineral except sodium chloride. It goes through bleaching, anti-caking agents, and high heat processing that removes the trace minerals that naturally occur in salt. And those trace minerals, magnesium, potassium, calcium, zinc, and over 80 others found in natural unrefined salts, are precisely the cofactors that your skin uses to maintain collagen synthesis, support keratinocyte regeneration, and regulate the inflammatory processes that accelerate aging. When people consume only refined processed salt, they get the sodium without the synergistic mineral matrix, and the skin pays a price over decades. Contrast that with seniors who have used natural salts, real Himalayan pink salt or genuine Celtic grey sea salt or fleur de sel, and you begin to understand one piece of the puzzle that explains the skin differences you see. Let's talk specifically about magnesium, because this mineral deserves its own moment of attention. Magnesium deficiency is epidemic in the older adult population. Estimates suggest that over 60% of adults over the age of 60 are consuming less magnesium than their body requires. And magnesium is not a minor player. It is involved in over 300 enzymatic processes in the body, including the enzymes responsible for cross-linking collagen fibers, the process that gives skin its structural strength and flexibility. Natural unrefined salts contain magnesium in bioavailable forms that refined salt simply does not. This is why some researchers have referred to the switch from traditional unrefined salt to industrial refined salt over the past century as a quiet nutritional disaster that we are only now beginning to see the long-term skin consequences of in our aging population. Now let's move into something that will surprise you even further. Salt's role in skin health is not just internal. There is a centuries-old tradition practiced across Eastern Europe, the Middle East, Japan and Scandinavia of using salt topically on the skin. And modern dermatology is finally beginning to validate why these ancient practices produce such remarkable results. When natural salt is applied to the skin, it does several things simultaneously. First, it acts as a gentle physical exfoliant, removing the buildup of dead keratinocytes that accumulate on the surface and make skin look dull, rough and aged. But the more significant effect is what happens at the barrier level. Salt solution applied to the skin, particularly in the form of mineral-rich brine, stimulates what researchers call the cutaneous sodium reservoir effect, where sodium and accompanying minerals are temporarily absorbed through the skin and support local cellular hydration. This is why Dead Sea salt treatments have been used therapeutically for conditions like psoriasis and eczema for generations. The water at the Dead Sea is not regular ocean water. It contains concentrations of magnesium chloride, potassium chloride, calcium chloride and bromide that are completely unmatched anywhere else on Earth, and the skin effects of bathing in it are documented and measurable. But you do not need to fly to Israel to get results. You can create a simple mineral brine at home using quality unrefined salt that produces real observable changes in skin texture over time. Here is how it works practically. Dissolve 2 tablespoons of natural unrefined salt, again Celtic grey sea salt or Himalayan pink are ideal, in 2 cups of warm filtered water. Let it fully dissolve. You can then apply this brine to your arms using a soft cloth or your hands, leave it on for 5 to 10 minutes and rinse off with cool water. Do this 3 to 4 times per week. Within 3 to 4 weeks, most people notice that the texture of the skin on their arms feels noticeably smoother, firmer and more hydrated. The reason is not magic. It is the mineral absorption combined with the gentle disruption of the dead skin layer that was blocking moisture uptake in the first place. Let's go deeper now into the internal side of this equation because the external application is only half the story. Diet and sodium balance play an enormous role in how the skin ages from the inside. One of the most consistent findings in populations where people age visibly well, communities in Sardinia, Okinawa, the Nicoya Peninsula, is that their diets are not low sodium. In fact, they tend to use salt quite liberally, but they are using traditional, unrefined, naturally occurring salt sources. They are also eating diets very high in potassium from vegetables, legumes and fruits, which creates the electrolyte balance that allows sodium to perform its regulatory function in the body without causing the blood pressure problems we associate with high salt processed Western diets. The problem in modern Western eating is not salt itself. The problem is the sodium to potassium ratio, which has been dangerously skewed by the dominance of processed and packaged foods. Our ancient human diet had a potassium to sodium ratio of roughly 10 to 1 in favour of potassium. Today, the average Western diet has flipped that entirely. Most people consume far more sodium than potassium, and virtually all of that sodium comes from low-quality refined sources. The seniors who age gracefully, who reach 80 with arms that look like they belong to someone 20 years younger, are very often people whose lifelong dietary patterns naturally maintained this mineral balance, whether they understood the science behind it or not. Now here is something else that your doctor almost certainly has not discussed with you, the role of sodium in lymphatic circulation and why this matters specifically for the skin on your arms. The lymphatic system is your body's internal drainage network. It removes waste, fights infection, and keeps fluid from pooling in the tissues. Proper lymphatic function in the arms depends on adequate sodium and mineral balance to maintain the osmotic gradient that pulls fluid through the lymphatic vessels. When this system becomes sluggish, which happens very commonly as people age, particularly if they are sedentary and mineral deficient, fluid can begin to accumulate in the tissue just beneath the skin. This produces that soft, puffy, dimpled look that many older adults notice on the underside of their upper arms. It is not simply a fat issue. It is often a fluid and lymphatic stagnation issue. And the minerals in natural salt, particularly magnesium and potassium alongside sodium, are among the key electrolytes that keep lymphatic pressure gradients functioning properly. This is also why simple arm movement is so synergistic with the salt protocol we are discussing. The lymphatic system has no pump of its own. It relies entirely on muscle contraction and gravity to move fluid. So combining an improved mineral intake through natural salt with regular gentle arm movements, overhead stretches, arm circles, even simple wrist rotations, creates a powerful combination that accelerates skin fluid regulation and reduces that stagnant puffiness that makes arms look older than they are. Let's talk now about what to avoid, because this is equally important. If you are serious about using the salt approach to protect and improve the skin on your arms, there are several common habits that will completely undermine your efforts. First and most obviously, processed and packaged foods are loaded with refined sodium and virtually stripped of the cofactor minerals we have been discussing. Chips, canned soups, deli meats, fast food, condiments, these are the sources of sodium that cause the cellular imbalances that age you. If you are going to prioritize natural mineral-rich salt in your cooking and topically on your skin, you need to simultaneously reduce these processed sodium sources, so you are not flooding your system with the wrong kind of salt while trying to supplement with the right kind. The second habit to avoid is chronic overhydration without mineral replacement. This sounds counterintuitive, but it is important. Drinking large quantities of plain water without adequate electrolyte intake can actually dilute your body's sodium levels, disrupting the skin's hydration reservoir function. This is especially relevant for older adults who may be drinking large amounts of water on the advice that more water equals better hydration. Hydration is not just about water volume, it is about electrolyte balance. Adding a small pinch of natural salt to your water or using electrolyte mineral drops in your daily water intake can dramatically improve how efficiently your body and your skin actually use that hydration. Third, avoid harsh synthetic soaps and body washes on your arms. Most commercial soaps strip the skin's natural acid mantle and remove the trace minerals that sit on the skin's surface, creating a chronic state of surface mineral depletion that no amount of moisturizer can fully correct. Use gentle pH balance cleansers and follow with mineral-rich brine applications several times a week to replenish what cleansing removes. There is one more layer to this story that ties everything together, and it has to do with something called the sodium glucocorticoid axis, a somewhat technical term for a very important biological relationship. When the body is chronically stressed physically, emotionally, or biochemically, it releases cortisol and related glucocorticoid hormones. These hormones have a direct suppressive effect on collagen synthesis in the skin. They literally slow down the production of new collagen fibers and accelerate the breakdown of existing ones. Here is the connection to salt. Adequate sodium levels and a healthy adrenal system work together to regulate cortisol output. When sodium intake drops too low, as can happen in very low salt diets, the adrenal glands are required to produce more aldosterone, a hormone that tells the kidneys to retain sodium. This aldosterone surge comes at the expense of cortisol regulation, creating an internal hormonal environment that is more inflammatory and more collagen destructive. Once again, the seniors who have naturally maintained better electrolyte balance through their dietary patterns have inadvertently protected their collagen-producing systems from this hormonal disruption. Their skin reflects decades of that protection. It is also worth noting that the skin on the arms is a uniquely useful indicator of overall systemic health, precisely because it gets relatively less sun exposure than the face and neck, which means UV damage is less of a confounding factor. When you see beautiful smooth arm skin on an elderly person, you are seeing something close to a pure reflection of their internal biological health, their collagen synthesis rate, their circulation quality, their mineral status, their inflammatory load. It is an honest window into how that body has been maintained from the inside over the course of a lifetime. So to bring everything together, here is the picture that emerges. The seniors who reach 80 with remarkably youthful arm skin are not simply lucky. They have over their lifetime maintained mineral-rich diets that preserve the skin's sodium reservoir, supported collagen synthesis through magnesium, and trace mineral adequacy, maintained electrolyte balance that kept their lymphatic and circulatory systems functioning efficiently, and in many cases used traditional salt-based topical practices that kept the skin's surface barrier functioning well. None of this required expensive interventions. Most of it was simply the result of eating real traditional, minimally processed food, including real traditional, minimally processed salt, and staying gently physically active in ways that supported lymphatic flow through the arms. The most important takeaways from everything we have covered today are these. Switch from refined table salt to a high-quality, natural, unrefined salt for your everyday cooking and seasoning. Maintain your potassium intake through whole vegetables and fruits to balance your electrolyte ratio properly. Try a simple mineral brine application on your arms 3 to 4 times per week, and make sure you are staying adequately hydrated with electrolytes rather than plain water alone. These are not dramatic or difficult changes. They are precisely the kind of small, consistent, biologically intelligent habits that compound over time into the kind of aging that turns heads and prompts people to ask, "What is your secret?" If you found this information genuinely valuable and eye-opening, please make sure to subscribe to this channel so you never miss content like this. Hit the like button to help more people discover these insights, and drop a comment below telling me what health topic you want me to cover next, because your questions genuinely shape what I create. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.